the Trump administration has announced new restrictions on travel to Cuba. Remember Obama tried to normalize things with Cuba, and then we elected Trump and said, oh, anything Obama did is garbage. I'm just going to undo all of it. And then all the Trump supporters said, yay! You remember when that happened? Well, that's still happening. It's an ongoing process, my friends. It says here, this is from thehill.com, the Trump administration is imposing new restrictions on travel to Cuba. National Security Advisor John Bolton said Wednesday, through his mustache Steve. I don't know if we haven't discussed this lately on the show, but I have a long-standing theory that John Bolton is actually some peace-loving, granola-crunching, tree-hugging hippie, and that it's actually his mustache. His mustache is secretly controlling the actions and deeds and words and foreign policy tendencies of John Bolton, and that it's Steve who is actually in control. And the way that I deduced that part was that there was a story a few months ago about how apparently Trump keeps calling John Bolton Steve instead of John, and I think it's because Trump, because he is a stable genius, he was able to figure out that it's actually Steve. Steve is the name of John Bolton's mustache, and it's actually the mustache that is in control. Because, and what probably happened is at some point during John Bolton's life, he was maybe he was at Woodstock or something, being a hippie or something, right? And peace and love and all that. And then this mustache, and who knows where the mustache came from, but the mustache saw him, needed a face to attach itself to in order to survive, and probably just leapt onto John Bolton's face and permanently affixed it to John Bolton's face, and now he can't get rid of it even if he wanted to. Like, he's probably tried to shave it off or something at some point. Just like, oh, I got to get rid of this Steve. It's ruining my life. Everyone hates me. They think I'm some crazy guy who wants to invade everybody and blow up the entire world. I got to get rid of this. And then it turned out he can't, because he goes to try to shave it, and it's extremely painful because now Steve and John have been fused together, and now that mustache is a permanent part of John Bolton's face. You can't trim it. You can't even go near it. If you do, like poison shoots out of the whiskers or something, and it'll defend itself, because no one, including John Bolton himself, is getting rid of that mustache. That's my theory. Now, some of you might, I realize, not all of you will subscribe to that. That's my theory. I could be wrong. But I mean, it's not unreasonable, is it? Okay, so here's what Bolton's mustache said at a speech in Miami to the Bay of Pigs Veterans Group on the 58th anniversary of the failed CIA-orchestrated invasion of the island in 1961. He said, quote, "The Department of the Treasury will implement further regulatory changes to restrict non-family travel to Cuba. These new measures will help steer Americans' dollars away from the Cuban regime," unquote. By the way, score one for protectionism. Remember, the Republican Party for a very long time was the party of free trade. But then Daddy came along, and by Daddy I mean Trump, and said, nope, we're not the party of free trade anymore. And then Republicans everywhere said, oh, okay. Because whatever Trump says, that's just how it is now. So, after decades and decades of being free traders and supporting things like TPP and all that, it's like Trump says, nope, we're protectionists now. And then the entire Republican Party says, you got it. We're with you, bro. I don't know why that happens, but that's just it's his party now. Bolton also announced new limits on the amount of money Cuban Americans can send to relatives on the island at $1,000 per person. So just so we're all understanding this, the federal government, the libertarian lurking within me is particularly troubled by this. The federal government has decided to limit the amount of money of your own money. You can't send more than $1,000 to Cuba if you want to. The reason that is particularly striking to me is because, hello to Christian Connarton, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Jenny and I were having a conversation earlier about how mystifying it is that so many libertarians are pro-Trump. A lot of libertarians, I've noticed, really love Trump. And this is such an anti-libertarian thing. You know, like the federal government telling you can't send more than X amount of money to whoever you damn well please. That's very unlibertarian, wouldn't you say? But, I mean, I know why, though. It's because a lot of libertarians register as Republicans. And, you know, if you're going to be a part of the Republicans, you know, whatever Daddy says or whatever Steve the mustache decides, that's just how it is now. And we don't question Daddy. We just go along. Just go along with whatever. Let's see. The new restrictions come after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said earlier in the day that the administration will allow U.S. citizens to sue foreign businesses using property seized during the 1959 Cuban Revolution, escalating pressure against the communist island nation. I don't have any particular opinion about that part because I don't feel like I know enough about that. The U.S. government has already certified nearly 6,000 claims valued at more than $8 billion in total, including actual value and interest. Taken together, these changes add up to a significant rollback of former President Obama's normalization of relations with Cuba, which Bolton criticized, or Bolton's mustache. Bolton said on Wednesday that the socialist governments of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, Miguel Diaz-Canel in Cuba, and Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua are beginning to crumble. The walls are closing in, Bolton said of U.S. pressure against Maduro. There is no turning back. The people will prevail, and when they do, we know that Cuba will be next. And soon after, we pray, the third member of the Troika, Nicaragua, will also at last be free, unquote. God. Oh. Just a bunch of mind-bending neocon garbage. It just spews from him so freely. What a bunch of nonsense. Who even talks about Nicaragua anymore, right? That was oh, God. Yes, and they're all gonna, you know, let's just cut right to the chase and just invade them all and Christianize them and, oh, God, just a bunch of. Anyway, and then to finish this off, it says, the U.S. has recognized National Assembly leader Juan, I'm never sure how to say this, Guaido. I've heard it pronounced a few different ways. Guaido? As Venezuela's interim president and tightened sanctions on the country over the past few months. Oh, just great.